Folks, hello and welcome back to online English class. Today we're going to continue the process of preparing for your AP language exam, which is on May 20th, Wednesday of next week. Before we do that, let's quickly talk through the top of the week announcements. All right, first of all, make sure that you are continuing your discussion grade procedure responsibilities. Today, very much like yesterday, you're going to have a unique kind of assignment at the end of the video given to you. That's going to require you to respond to a prompt that I'm going to offer to you at the end of the class. Okay, so also, independently, you need to begin preparing for the AP exam. All right, so that's going to mean a variety of different things for a variety of different people, but you should begin by downloading the review materials from RoomWeb and beginning to sharpen your knowledge of how to read rhetoric and how to write about rhetoric effectively. Okay, so daily you need to be working with those review materials at your own pace. Okay. Beyond that, you need to have read all of this background information. You should have already done that, okay? This is not a big task, okay? It simply is background information for the exam. And then finally, you need to continue drafting your quarter four essay. Now, some people have communicated to me the fact that they are overwhelmed right now, that they feel like they have too much to do. Okay, well, let me quickly explain the logic of how I've laid out these last 2 weeks and then talk about some possible solutions that we can have. Okay, so first of all, I am operating under the expectation that you have a well-developed draft of your Unit 4 essay. If you do not have a well-developed draft of your Unit 4 essay, your Quarter 4 essay, then some of this stuff breaks down, okay? I don't want you writing your synthesis essay right now. I want you to already have a draft in hand, which was communicated to you earlier in the course, all right? If you don't have that and you're feeling really backed up against the wall, I know you guys are good students, and I'm certainly willing to negotiate with you. At this point, I'm on your side. I want you to crush this exam. I want you to be able to prepare for this exam on a daily basis and to actually have time to get something out of the review conversations that we're having. If that requires you to have an extension on your quarter four essay, then we can negotiate about that. All right, I'm willing. I'm willing to allow that. Right. I'm not going to assign that to everyone because I can't. I actually can't require you to turn in essay work after the school year is over. If you choose to do that, uh, 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 then I'm okay with it. Okay, I will allow it and I'll take it later if that's going to help you free up some time to prepare for your exam and sort of ease any worry that you have right now. But ultimately, you really should have only two tasks to accomplish right now. On a daily basis, you should engage with about a 25 to 30 minute video that we're about to get into, all right? And then you should have about a 10 to 15 minute response to the information that we covered in the video in your comment, all right? For a total of around 45 minutes, which is the length of a normal class that you would sit through, okay, during the day. All additional work is up to your own volition. Okay, I'm telling you, you ought to spend some time with it, but you can spend however much time you deem appropriate, however much time you need. Okay, and then beyond that, you should be tightening the screws on your quarter four essay, not like building it from the ground up. Okay, so if you're in that position, you're kind of panicking right now, then we can negotiate because at this point, I'm less interested in due dates and more interested in success. All right, so let's try and develop a schedule for you that satisfies all the requirements of the class. You are in an AP language class. You got to satisfy the requirements of the class. Okay, I can't just like say, well, the essay, screw it, right? No, that's part of the basic requirements of the class. But I will negotiate about how exactly those requirements are fulfilled. Okay. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the review process. All right. So, yesterday we introduced the review process by accomplishing a couple basic tasks. Right. We defined what rhetorical analysis is. We defined the fact that in order to be successful in the exam, you're going to need to have two sets of basic skills. You're going to need to be able to read rhetoric, and you're going to need to be able to write about rhetoric effectively. We're going to be talking about the composition process in the second half of our review. Okay, right now we're concentrating most basically on reminding ourselves of what it looks like to read rhetoric analytically. Okay, to read into a rhetorical situation and be able to analyze the way that a speaker is attempting to accomplish his or her specific goals within a specific rhetorical situation to a specific audience, okay, through specific textual choices. All right. To expand our ability to explain this, we need to have some kind of understanding of what a claim is and how an author uses evidence to support the logic of that claim. Now, we already know that rhetoric is not just a logical exercise, but also an emotional and a relational exercise. The audience needs to believe that the speaker is reputable. They need to have a good, positive relationship with that speaker. And they also need to be moved emotionally so that they accept the logic of the speech. But the logic of the speech is also an important aspect of it, right? So we're going to analyze how claims are developed using evidence. We're going to look specifically at that tomorrow and how that claim, the relationship between claim and evidence is structured into a reasonable line of reasoning. It is organized according to its rhetorical purpose, right? And finally, last, we're going to talk about style. We're going to talk about how the speaker is using language specifically, uniquely, in order to develop their appeals to their audience, to make their argument appealing to the audience. All right. So, yesterday, what we talked through is a basic definition of rhetoric. We talked through a basic definition of what it means to analyze rhetoric. We talked through the basic components of a rhetorical situation, which contextualizes all rhetorical analysis. Okay, if you don't understand the rhetorical situation, you don't understand how the rhetoric is functioning. You just can't. Okay, it must always be analyzed within its context, within its situation. And we also introduced the three basic appeals, all right, that speakers use in order to accomplish their goals within specific situations. Okay, so logos appeals are developed according to the audience and what the audience already assumes to be true. Pathos appeals are developed according to the audience's value systems, beliefs, what moves them emotionally. All right, and ethos appeals are constructed according to the values of the audience as the speaker attempts to emulate and mimic those values. All right, today we're going to talk more specifically about the pathos appeal and look at how Madeleine Albright in the 2018 excerpt is using the pathos appeal, using emotional arguments in order to persuade her audience to do what she wants her audience to do. Okay, so let's quickly look back at the pathos appeal. All right, so on a very basic level, what the pathos appeal is an argument that uses humor, the any emotion. All right, so I'm not going to go through, but it uses a variety of tactics to engage with the audience's emotions, their feelings, how they are feeling. Okay. And effective pathetic arguments need to be sympathetic. They need to be based on the speaker's understanding of what the audience needs or what they believe, right? What is going to move them specifically. Okay, so they can be based on humor, as this advertisement is. It's just a little bit of irony, right? Playing on the sort of sentimental pretense that we're more than just a bank. This bank says, right, very much oppositely, we're not more than just a bank. You can expect us to be just a bank, right? Or sort of pictures of this unhealthy child that's meant to evoke a sense of sort of disgust and pity for this poor child who needs to be parented differently, right? Feeding kids meat is child abuse. I'd like to hear what Ron Swanson had to say about that. Or more inspirational forms of pathetic arguments that attempt to offer a kind of pattern for emulation or empowerment, as is seen in this Dove Always advertisement. Okay. So, how does this relate to an actual text that you should have taken a look at yesterday? Well, let's spend some time analyzing it, okay? So if you haven't read this text in its entirety, I would invite you to return to it and read it one time through and try and develop a general understanding of what Albright is trying to do. What is she in this rhetorical situation, which is a commencement speech? It's a speech at a graduation for a group of female college graduates from a pretty reputable all girls college in Massachusetts. Okay, Mount Holyoke College, right? What is Albright's goal? Well, the way that I have summarized her goal in my own little notes here for our review in day 2 is that Albright attempts to persuade her audience of young college graduates to reject a life of narrow, selfish complacency. In other words, just sort of being okay with the status quo, going about their life, trying to establish some kind of personal measure of happiness and fulfillment, whatever that might mean. She's trying to inspire them to reject that kind of life. Okay, even though they can do that, right? She's trying to say, don't do that, and rather to actively engage in the process of pursuing justice throughout the world. Okay, so that is the kind of call to action that Albright is trying to convey. That is her central purpose. That's what she wants her audience to do, to live a life of pursuing justice throughout the world. Okay, so how does she accomplish that goal, right? She doesn't just simply approach the podium and say, hey guys, go out and pursue justice throughout the course of the world. End of speech, right? She rather deploys some arguments to support her purpose. She deploys some rhetoric to try and persuade her audience to do that. All right, and one way that she attempts to do that, looking specifically at the emotions of her audience, is that she associates rest. Okay, she associates relaxation. Okay, or being okay with the status quo with, all right, the acceptance of global atrocities that offend against the graduate's value system. All right, and if they are indeed going to accept that, as I'm going to discuss in my body paragraphs, they are going to be made to feel like what? Like hypocrites. Okay, so if they're actually going to make any claim that they value democratic kinds of ethics and the inherent value of all men, then they cannot. All right, they are not able, within the context of the speech, to accept a life that is at peace with those kinds of injustices. All right, and the other primary emotional argument that is offered here is Albright gives a series of inspiring examples of female leaders. Okay, a series of examples of female of just women all across the globe, uncommon women all around the globe, who have successfully pursued justice in their specific context. All right. And she describes these women as if they, like the graduates of Mount Holyoke College, are also uncommon women. All right. So, in other words, they're all on the same team. Okay. There is this sense of, the word for that is solidarity. They are unified with these other successful women, and like these successful women, are empowered to go and do the same thing that they have accomplished. Okay, so this, right, these two arguments propel the graduates into a life of active pursuit of justice. All right, so that's how this emotional argument connects to the central purpose of attempting to persuade our audience to engage in that active life. All right, so this is an example of an analytical thesis statement, right? This would be a central claim that could govern an entire essay or just a portion of an essay, right? Because there are other arguments deployed here, as we'll discuss tomorrow. All right, so first and foremost, some areas of text that help bear this out. I'm going to offer a few quick examples, and then I'm going to invite you to identify some examples on your own, and then comment on how those examples help support Albright's larger goal or purpose. That's your comment assignment. Okay, so in the very first paragraph, right, note the use of language. All right, note how Albright juxtaposes these words, narrow, selfish, and complacent, all words with deeply negative connotations. She juxtaposes those words with these positive words, courage and faith, right? Faith in the belief that all men are created equal, that all women are created equal, that everyone has inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. She juxtaposes a life of narrowness and selfishness and complacency with a life of action. Okay, so already rest or being okay with the status quo is associated with these negative words: narrowness, selfishness, complacency. Nobody wants to be, no reasonable person wants to be those ways, especially not idealistic young graduates, all right, of college. Rather, they want to be courageous and faithful people, people who do what is right and live in pursuit of the good. Right? Albright here uses the juxtaposition between these words, these 5 words, in order to begin the process of engaging with the emotions of our audience, persuading them that those who live narrowly, live selfishly, live complacently, live at rest are also those who are not courageous and not faithful. Okay, so not exactly what you would want to be. Another great example, all right, she says, right, largely U.S. leadership, because of U.S. leadership, nuclear weapons no longer target our homes. Okay, so that's a success. Nice, right? We can relax, right? Well, she says we could relax, right? Another word for rest or be at peace with or be okay with what we've accomplished, right? But instead, okay, that gets into the ethos appeal that we'll talk about tomorrow. We are working actively to reduce nuclear arsenals, eliminate chemical weapons, and significantly end child-maiming scourge of landmines and ratify a treaty that would ban nuclear explosions forever. Okay? So, in other words, right, especially this sort of graphic image of child maiming landmines that are described as a scourge on the earth are referenced by Albright to once again continue this impression that if you're okay with this kind of thing, then sure, go ahead and relax, pat yourself on the back and do nothing. But if you are going to be a person who has any kind of cogent value system that affirms any kind of democratic ethics and the inherent value of all people's life, not just your own, then you can't be okay with this. And in your own way, in your own sphere, you need to be working against these kinds of injustices, or this kind of injustice specifically. All right. She then references the fighting in Bosnia, okay, and offers another kind of graphic, emotionally moving form of injustice, right? For those who consider rape just another tactic of war, they should answer for their crimes. That's something that we believe, right? Are you with us, right? Or are you on the side of the narrow, complacent, and selfish, right? That's a pretty simple choice that engages with the emotional desire of the audience to not be dirt bags. Okay, so don't use that in your essay, but to not be immoral, to not be people who have duplicitous value systems and ignore injustices for the sake of their own comfort and well-being. Okay, right. So those are salient examples of ways that she accomplishes her larger goal of calling these students to action by associating rest or relaxation with acceptance of a number of global atrocities. All right. Now, another great example of her pathos appeal comes as she lists the accomplishments of these uncommon women, all right, and associates the accomplishments of these uncommon women with the women of Mount Holyoke. Okay, so the women of Mount Holyoke, she says, are known to be uncommon women, women who pursue justice in uncommon, unconventional ways, who press against the injustices of the world. But, all right, that kind of uncommon woman is not just something that is true at Mount Holyoke, but rather something that is pervasive all throughout the corners of the globe. In other words, the women, these uncommon women, are a part of a what? that human beings like being a part of. They're a part of a group. All right, they have a sense of solidarity. And not only is that a group that's not just a group like, hey, you're in a group, but your group is that you are all dumb and stupid, right? And have no potential, right? The group that they are a part of is an inspiring group. This sense of solidarity is also empowering, as they are uncommon. They are unique. They are set apart from the rest of those who would live narrowly, selfishly, and complacently. All right, and then she gives these inspiring examples of women who have borne out their own uncommonness by pursuing justice in their corners of the world. Women from Sarajevo, okay, women from Burundi, women from Guatemala, women from Burma. These parallel examples, all right, so that's a stylistic device that you ought to remember or know about. These parallel examples help stack up example after example of women successfully pushing back the boundaries of injustice. And this first of all, the women of Mount Holyoke are associated with them, so they are like them. They are in the same group as them. They are a part. They're just like them, and they are successful. Which is inspiring. It's empowering. We can do that too. Albright implies to the audience. Okay, so these two examples of emotional arguments that are pretty easy to pick out in the argument, right? Help Albright persuade her audience to live in the way that she is suggesting that they ought to live. Okay, um, this is an example of a analysis of how Albright is using emotional oriented arguments to support her larger goal. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk about Albright's appeal to her audience rationality, how she is structuring her line of reasoning, not just in a way that is emotionally engaging, but also in a way that is logically coherent. And when put together, those two arguments are exponentially more persuasive. The argument is both logical and also moving, and because of that, doubly persuasive. Okay, but not only that, she also goes out of her way to imply that she is the kind of uncommon woman that is in coalition with these other uncommon women throughout the world working for justice. That she is a part of that group. Okay, that we are doing this together. Will you? The implied invitation is, will you join us? Okay, will you engage in this kind of great endeavor? All right. So again, all three of those things, when combined, all right, develop an extremely persuasive argument. Okay. Now, for your own personal analysis, you could discuss, just the pathos and logos of the argument. You could discuss just the pathos and ethos of the argument, just the ethos and logos of the argument, right? But you must not simply say Albright uses ethos and Albright uses logos, right? No. The uses of those devices of persuasion are situational. They must be described within the context that they are occurring. Okay, so here's our analysis of pathos. Tomorrow we'll get into an analysis of logos. What I want you to do now, all right, here's your assignment, is to identify two areas of text, okay? Phrases, word choices, sentences, a paragraph. I'd like for you to identify that area of text, quote it, all right, in a comment on the YouTube channel, and then to comment on, to develop some commentary about how that specific portion of the argument develops Albright's central goal, how it relates to Albright's central goal. Okay, that is an example of the kind of analysis that you would need to do repeatedly throughout the course of your essay. And if you did that repeatedly throughout the course of your essay, introduced textual evidence, commented on how that evidence supported the central goal, then you would have a coherent essay and you would pass this exam. Okay, so that's your task for today. Go ahead, accomplish that task, spend about 10 or 15 minutes working on that, and then you can begin the process of spending your time the way that you feel is most beneficial. Okay? All right, have an excellent day, and we'll reconvene tomorrow.